Hi, my name's Eliza, and over the past year and a half, I've been struggling with a chronic condition. Now, my chronic condition is currently undiagnosed because the doctors are unsure about what is happening, and the waiting lists are very long due to the NHS's struggles at the moment. So, I've created this channel as a way to spread awareness about chronic conditions. Obviously, I'm not an expert. I'm just going to be talking about my personal experiences and the experiences of those I know. So I will hopefully, depending on how I feel due to, like I said, the chronic illness, be releasing videos with advice or talking about accessibility issues or anything that I've found has helped me cope and manage better with the stuff that I'm dealing with, and hopefully it will be able to help somebody out there, because that's what I want to do. So, the dizziness. That was the first thing for me, and I could barely climb up the stairs in my house. I was crawling, I still crawl up the stairs. I just don't want to risk falling. Let's go with that. And so that was the first thing. And initially, me and my family thought I was just a bit unwell. So basically, that was my first symptom, well, first recognisable symptom of whatever chronic condition that I personally have. And as those of you who've ever had any form of dizziness will know, it is a nightmare to get anything done. So for those of you who know, dizziness is a nightmare to deal with, and any of you who've had a cold and it's been all up in your sinuses and you're just feeling a bit all over the place, jiggly wiggly, then you'll know how that sort of feels. So I stopped attending the education that I was supposed to be in. So dizziness was the first symptom for me. And then as it progressed, shall we say, the dizziness became the least of my worry. It was the dizziness, and then what started was I started to get these really intense pains all over my body. And when I say intense pains, I don't mean like, oh, bang your head or something, not like that kind of pain. It's like a burning feeling everywhere, like a burning, throbbing sort of thing. I don't know how better to explain that. But, yet again, coping with it as best I could, and then it got worse. And it's just continued to get worse till this point. That's one of the symptoms. Another one is I get these numb sensations in different parts of my body. It's usually limited to, well, it was limited to my hands and feet. So for my hands, I'd have lack of control. My skin would feel, well, it still does. Like right now, it would feel really, really tight, and I'd not be able to control my hand movement as I'd like to. Like I can do waving and all that fine, but I'd go to pick something up. I mean, I'm not going to demonstrate because I don't want to make a mess everywhere. Just pick up a cup of water, and you go in to grab like that, except somewhere along the way my brain signals not quite going right, or my hand just doesn't want to cooperate. So I go to pick it up and I'll end up whacking it across the room instead, which, as you can imagine, isn't ideal when it's full of water. It's basically, yet again, got worse. And well, I was already struggling with walking because of the dizziness, but I also, during this time, started experiencing tense fatigue. Like, I am exhausted all the time. And I mean, I didn't sleep very well before all this happened, but now it's like I'm lucky if I get 4 hours. Fatigue happens when my body does too much, or sometimes it happens when it does too little. And it goes all over the place really. So I'll be fine one day. I can do, let's say I can go out on a walk or go into town or anything like that. And the next day I will be experiencing a really intense flare up of all my symptoms. Now, one that I haven't mentioned quite yet is my temperature control fluctuates. So sometimes, like right now, 11 degrees here, that's Celsius, not Fahrenheit. And right now, in 11 degrees Celsius, it's cold. However, at this current moment in time, which will change, I feel like it's about 28 degrees, which it's not, it's freezing. But my body's temperature control is so all over the place that it basically, I will be feeling absolutely freezing cold when I've got a temperature of like 38 degrees, or I'll be feeling really, really hot when I'm absolutely freezing cold. So, over the past year and a half, I've been to many different doctors, many different specialists, multiple MRIs, been to a psychologist, and all of that sort of things. And blood tests and all of that. Over the past year and a half, like I said, many doctors, many tests, and all of that. And unfortunately, none the closer. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that not having a diagnosis does not make the symptoms that you are experiencing any less valid. Everything you experience is valid. Any symptoms or signs or anything like that is valid, regardless of your diagnosis, regardless of whether you have a diagnosis or whether the doctors believe you or anything like that, is valid. Now, I've personally been very fortunate because my parents have been able to support me financially. I mean, I live at home with them, I'm not paying bills or anything because I can't work, which, you know, is difficult because that's what you've been raised to believe is you become an adult, of which I am now, and you're taught when you become an adult you need to work. That's kind of the beliefs that are instilled upon you as a child, and that's very, very difficult to undo. But if working would have a detrimental effect on your health and you have people who are able to support you financially and mentally and all of that, then working is not the best thing to do. At least, if, like I say, if that is an option for you, which for me, I've been very fortunate in that sense. Another thing that I just wanted to mention quickly, because I'm conscious of the time slipping away here, and I don't want to keep you all from your life, but what I also wanted to say was there's a lot of stigma around mobility aids. I use a walking stick, lovely one, which helps me move around. I don't have to use it. I don't have to use it all the time. Like around my house because I've used the walls and, you know, furniture to help me get around. But when I go out and about, I have to use a walking stick because it helps me conserve energy so I can go further, and also it stops me from face planting the concrete, as well as helps me manage when I get intense bits of, well, like I said, I get pain everywhere, but I also get these intense periods of pain alongside the everywhere pain. So I'll be walking along and say my shoulder just all of a sudden feels like someone's trying to rip it off. Horrible imagery, but that's the best way to describe it. And as you can imagine, that can be very off balancing. So having a mobility aid, which works for me, so walking stick, and this one was only about £15, I think, if I remember correctly. That's a nice colour. Having a mobility aid that works for you if you need one is really helpful. It can make you feel more independent and be able to do more with whatever you're struggling with. And now a lot of people seem to think that having to use a mobility aid, you have to be, well, I don't know, like you've broken your leg or something like that, which is completely untrue. Number one, if you're thinking about getting a mobility aid, you probably need a mobility aid. Sorry, my dog's just stood up at the window. Don't know why. She does her. She's just watching me. If you're thinking about getting a mobility aid, you probably need a mobility aid. That's the first thing. That's what it was for me. I was like, I could probably use a walking stick, and then it's like, yeah, you probably could, Eliza. That would help you, would But then you also have that little voice in the back of your name going, am I disabled enough? And if you're asking yourself that question, the likelihood is, yeah, you are. And now you may not need to use a mobility aid all the time, or you may need to use it all the time. Disabilities are, it's a vast spectrum. But I guess it's just a matter of whether you feel personally you need it or not. And I guess, I know that for me, I was very nervous about using it to start off with, because around where I live, the only people really who tend to use mobility aids tend to be the elderly. And so when I first went out using it, I was very self-conscious, and I'd get nasty looks from people, unfortunately. It's not be the way society treats people who need mobility aids. But that's a discussion for another day. I'm sorry, I do tend to ramble off about things. But I just want to leave you with this message before I skedaddle, or you skedaddle, or, But I think, like I said, I'm sort of making these videos or whatever I end up doing to, raise awareness for chronic illness and disabilities, as well as hopefully giving you what you need to hear personally, because I know that when this first started for me, I found it very hard, because while my family was very supportive, there were obviously people who didn't understand what I was going through. And I've found people on social media who've not gone through the exact same thing as me, but they've got a disability, and I found those kind of videos very helpful for me to make me feel less alone. So I'm hoping that by putting what I'm going through out there into the world, it can help somebody else. Allowed to rest. If your body is telling you to rest, do it, because you don't want to cause yourself to feel worse than you already are feeling, And I think that's all. I shall leave you to get on with your day, or your evening, or whatever time it is that you've watched this. And I hope that you will continue to watch my videos. Technically this is the first long video I've released, so you know, there might not actually be any other videos to watch yet, but I will put more out there. Probably with a, you know, sorting out what I was going to say first because scatterbrain and all of that. If you get the chance, please do the subscribing because that will help me know that people are actually interested in, well, what I've got to say. And yeah, thank you for watching. I am sending you all of the love and hope and all that stuff. And I hope to be able to talk to you again. Yeah. Anyway, love you. Bye.